but it's kind
Yeah,
of like the
yeah.
one thing that's just there, you
This
know?
is there. I think it's like,
Can I bring it
you
up?
know, I think you should, because I think it's been on everyone's mind this last
It's
week.
been one of the biggest and most tragic memes of the 21st century. We have the Titan submarine. And it's funny because like the Titanic is kind of a meme too.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that the Titan submarine also became a meme before we even knew what happened to them is kind of insane. Like there's something about the Titanic and the Titan and anything related to that just automatically becomes something in pop culture. But also, it is
Hmm.
sad, right? Like we lost like
Yeah.
four good people and then one absolute degenerate. So it's horrible. I feel bad for the families, but let me tell you, the CEO, that guy was a menace. Have you read up about him?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
what
I've
what a
heard
what a
comment.
mad lad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally, if they survived the submarine, which if you didn't know, the submarine imploded. We found debris. It kind of confirmed that theory. And I think they also said they found some parts 1,300 feet away from the Titanic as well. So I don't know if that
1200,
was.
1600 feet
Yeah,
away.
I wasn't
Yeah.
I wasn't too sure about that one. I didn't fact check that one yet, but yeah, from what I know though, that captain, whew, even if they survived, he would be in jail.
So,
That man would be a goner.
so like he had some famous last words on the record.
So
If
ironic.
he came up and he like, try to double down in any way, I myself would have to, like, I think every man would just need to just slap him up, just like, bro, stop it. You don't stop. Like, the thing is, that guy is a decorated genius, so to say. Like, he has accolades that justify, like, maybe that's how people ended up trusting him, because he's like 19 years old. He built like a jet or something like that. I don't even remember all those accolades. But as far as like what he's saying right now, like, for me, it's kind of one of those things. It's like someone could be someone in the past, but this guy's like, what, 50, 60, 70, I don't know, he looks like 50, 60, around there, right? I ain't taking what he did in his 20s or 30s or 40s at all. I'm taking what he's telling me right now, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, bro, when I was in robotics, my team built way more competent things than what you're doing right now. Like, we took in material science way, like, I don't know. It's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy when you sit back and you like nail down all of the things that like could have been improved on had he just opened up to some scrutiny, which is ultimately what he was afraid of. He didn't want any scrutiny, so he avoided any checks. And like, hey, sure, I get it. I get you're in uncharted territory, but you're not. You're actually not. This is the thing. This is a miss at the very beginning of this conversation, the submarine thing. It was like a discussion point of like, this Titan sub is one of the only things that can go down to that depth. And it's like at the beginning, it was like one of three submersibles that could go there. It was the only one that like could do what it's been doing. No, it's the only one that takes tourists. As far as current timeline, what we know is there are 10, count them, 10 things that can go down there, all manned, from my knowledge. I think maybe not all of them manned, but majority of them manned. It's just that they don't take tourists. The Titan is one of them. It's the only one of those 10 that is unregulated. That is the only thing.
He
All the other ones are
avoided
regulated.
regulation. Like this man did everything he could to make sure that submarine was as unsafe as humanly possible. Did you hear how he described the submarine and how he built it?
I've heard everything.
He said he got the materials off the shelf. He said these are materials you could just find. Like, it sounded like the guy built something in Minecraft and he called it a day. That is wild to me. It's also one of the smallest submersibles too that could go down there. Like, you had to sit crisscross applesauce to actually fit in.
It's smallest, but it's also large. So here's some context, right?
Yeah.
As far as the using off the shelf parts, I get that for some things, not all things, not most important things. Like, I get how, like, okay, so here's one thing. The reason why he needed a Bluetooth controller was to avoid wires. Very smart, very smart. But the solution to your problem of, hey, what if this shitty like $6, $30, no offense to Logitech, no, I'm not saying that, but your solution to this controller maybe malfunctioning shouldn't be, let me just get more of the same. And he had backup.
Yeah, he said he had backup Bluetooth Logitech controllers. He said, "Yep, just in case this one fails, I have a couple on board as well, just backup." It's like, bro, no way.
And like, I completely understand the logic of the Bluetooth part. I've in the past have learned Bluetooth. I even created a mechanism that utilizes Bluetooth to create like an interaction and whatever. And the benefit of it is not having wires and not having a lot of energy. Bluetooth is low energy and it's fairly reliable at a distance. And what he needed to do is break through like 7 inches of material, which the Bluetooth can do. And that's where other submarines wouldn't do that, right? So that was the ingenuity. I appreciate that. I like that. But then there's other parts that he didn't need to do. And so one thing that was why he cut corners was the tourist aspect of it. So the other subs or submersibles that can go down there, they typically are 2 to 3 people, which as far as a tourist thing, it's like a captain, someone who could pilot it, and then one person. Not very economic. So what he did was, instead of having a typical hull structure of whether it's titanium, whatever material ends up working, I think we got a lot of information from this guy, which here's my favorite meme of this, right? You think going down to the Titanic is this rare experience, not many people. Sure. The director of the Titanic, like the movie, he's been down there 30 times. 30 times. So everyone in the comment section was like, so why aren't we using his sub? And so the reason why is because his sub, I think, used ceramic. So that material as a uniform material works just fine as long as you engineer it correctly. Whatever, ceramic worked. I think that's what he said, ceramic. Whereas this guy used carbon fiber,
yes,
which is lighter and all that stuff. But what it also allows you to do is make it bigger. So he has a 22-foot thing that allows 5 people to sit down in relatively comfortable quarters as compared to the competitors. But the competitors are made for trained scientists and researchers who are going down there to learn about deep sea, like how the deep sea environment interacts with our materials, our world, or whatever, what went wrong with the Titanic, for the benefit of humanity, right? Whereas this one, this has to be, guys, like this. Nobody, if you get this much money, I swear to God, if you spend $250K to look at the Titanic through a goddamn screen, I will.
What an absolute waste of money.
I will find you that shit.
It is miserable.
Made my blood boil.
That
made my blood boil.
When I heard a submarine went missing, I imagine, like in those movies, like where you like the World War II movies, and it's a giant sub, like 50 people are in there, like walking around with guns, and it's like really big, spacious. Yeah. There's a lounge area. That's what I imagined when I heard a submarine went missing. I was like, oh no, like we lost something great. Like I can't believe it. And then when I saw the videos, like the more I learned about this, the more I saw the interviews and the like what the submarine was made out of and the CEO, I was like, no way. They paid $250K to sit in a little box. And like I said, I feel bad for the 4 people on board that met their untimely demise. But that CEO, I don't feel bad about him. He was kind of a menace to society. Yeah. Did you hear about the people he sued?
The fraud stuff? I didn't hear. People were suing him and he was like dodging it and like scamming them.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
And he was countersuing and things like that. So what happened was he had employees who spoke out about the submarine safety 2 and 3 years ago. It was 2 employees, 2 different individuals spoke out about the submarine safety and how it doesn't meet standards and how they would not be able to get that regulated by the government. Nobody would give them approval for the submarine to go down that deep. And what he did was, 1, he fired them, and then 2, he sued them. And it's like, no way, this guy's a monster. Like, people had been warning this man for years about how dangerous this sub is. And he said, F it, we're going to go down there anyways.
So here's an interesting thing also about the Titan sub that was also, I think, misconstrued
Crazy.
in the light of the media mob fest, was that this sub has successfully made it to Titanic and has
Yes.
successfully brought people down there and back up. I think those are scientists and researchers primarily. But where it comes down to, and this is ultimately where he failed, in my opinion, this is the ultimate failure, is that the environment, like, you would not do this in space, and space is relatively easier to be in but harder to get to. Not harder to get to, it's like, but at the same time, even Elon Musk isn't doing this. You're not reusing the same exact
He did not
equipment.
look for the durability, bro. He did not go to the blacksmith. He didn't repair his equipment.
Exactly. That, I think that's all the ultimate failure, where it's like you're going down to unfathomable depths, literally. How are you not getting an oil check?
And he made this in his garage. And it's the thing too is that, you touched on it already, but he made it with carbon fiber. And that material, from what I know, or from what I saw, like from like a couple of articles, that material is only recommended for depths of 4,000 feet. He went down to 15,000 feet multiple times and did not once upgrade or replace the carbon fiber. He said, nope, it's fine. And he doesn't realize that the stress on it is ridiculous. Like the pressure, which is what we learned, like it imploded. Like that carbon fiber did not hold up at the end of the day, which is probably for the best, right? Like, I mean, I feel like that is the better outcome for the people on the submarine. I feel like, losing oxygen for multiple days is like the worst way to go. But it's like, holy crap, like this guy is, he's a madman. And he had a nickname too. Did you see his nickname?
Oh, no, I maybe, but
people
hit me with it.
People call him the Daredevil Inventor. I would not trust my life to the Daredevil Inventor. And like I said, I feel bad for the families, but if you just do one Google search on this guy's name, you will find the lawsuits, you will find the scandals with his safety of the submarine. Like it's all there. Like it wasn't hidden. Yeah. His title of the Daredevil Inventor is there. It's like, it feels like they didn't really do research with the company they put their lives in the hands of, which maybe just they saw the fact that he went there a couple times and they had a lot of money, they saw the price and they're like, okay, cool, and they're like, whatever. But I feel like the minute you show up and you see this dude pulled up with his Game Boy controller and a little like shoebox of a submarine, it's like, okay, maybe this ain't it. Did you see the bathroom?
Did I see? What do you mean? Did I see it? I don't think anybody saw the bathroom.
God, the bathroom. So the way articles described it made it sound so great. They're like, yeah, it's a separate room. They got a little thing there. The guy had a bottle. He had a bottle and he had a curtain, and it was in the same room as everyone else. He put up a curtain and called it a separate room. He called it incognito mode. And the craziest part is, a part of the sign-up process was that he told passengers to change their diets a week before so that they won't have to use the bathroom on the submarine.
Yeah. Which, like,
wild.
That kind of stuff I think is fair, like normal in the sense, right?
It makes
go to
sense.
Space, going down there. That's why you need trained researchers, trained people to do that. All these people need to go through training, but like I 100% agree. It's like, this is not like a tourist thing, right? Like when you're talking about a tourist thing, you're taking a lot of responsibility to people who are naive. You're allowing an experience to people who on their own would never be able to do that. And that's where like a few issues come up. And like there's so many parts of the conversation. After this part, I do want to walk through the timeline of what we know at this moment, because at this moment, I don't think there's going to be any more like crazy reveals to contextualize like what we're going to talk about or how we're talking about it. But there's also, I feel like that even right now, or by the time this, this gets uploaded, I feel like there's some things that people might not have caught on. And I just have like, I was just on the internet a lot, so I heard a lot and saw a lot of interviews, people, stuff like that. But that's where, first things first, that did happen. Someone did walk there and back out. The main billionaire that is known for exploration. So this guy, I think, in my opinion, he was the guy that, not that I don't feel sorry for. It's more so like he fully accepted. Like this is something his entire life is around this. He has like 50 or 70 Guinness World Records about adventure. He was the first tourist guy with Jeff Bezos in space. So him going out this way, this is something I'm sure he's not even like, this is a risk that he not only probably accepts, but he almost welcomed to a certain extent, because this is how he lives his life.
Yeah.
But his best friend apparently was going to go with him and backed out because he's like, I don't trust this guy, the controller, the lights, like none of this stuff is exciting for me. I'm not
no
that
air
kind
conditioning
of a
is just
seeker.
stuffy. Like, nah, dude.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Like, hey, we might be best friends, but no shot I'm shitting in the same room as you, brother. Like, that's kind of
if I said, hey, let's go check out the Marianas Trench for the 50/50 podcast, and then I showed up to your house with a shoebox and said, yo, hop in, my man, we're going down there, would you come? And my controller was actually like a bunch of pens in a cup that I just jiggled around and it moved the shoebox. Would you hop in there with me? Be honest.
It's funny you said that, because me and my wife were talking about that. I was like, me and Sai would never. And it's funny because our first episodes, it's like we predicted this entire situation, because like our first episodes were about the depths of the ocean and how dangerous, how scary, and how wild it could be, Marianas Trench and various other things, right? And then like a few episodes ago, I literally said like, yo, humans just need to stop disrespecting the ocean. And then fast forward a week or two, look at that. Humans disrespecting the ocean.
Episodes are ocean based now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Even the episode after this is about sharks. What the wait, what is up with do we have like water affinity? Are we like a water affiliated podcast? What's up?
I think we just have foresight. I think water is going to be a huge thematic in the future. We're just ahead of the game.
Yeah,
and that's another thing.
Nobody knows how cool water is yet.
Yeah, I think in this last week, so many people became aware of how like just water works and how insane pressure is. For example, wait, what?
People are more prone to how water works now. They're more privy to that information.
Like, here's a cool, sad fact, right? Like, their lives probably went through, very quickly because of the depths that they're at. Asterisks. We'll touch on that later. But at that depth, at least at the Titanic, it's so much pressure that the Titanic, I don't know if you knew this. This is a really cool fact. I might even incorporate this in one of my stories that I might write in the future. There are no bodies on the Titanic. Even though there are bodies stuck inside, there are no bodies in there because the pressure's so high that their bodies get liquefied pretty much instantly. So all that's left is shoes.
I mean, yeah, that
how
sounds
you know.
about right. It's like the blobfish thing.
Yeah, exactly. So they all got liquefied, especially on the Titan. Sad, instant though.
Painless.
But so going back to the that aspect, right? That billionaire, fine, right? The CEO, words can be said. The other guy, there was like a decorated Navy captain, like French naval captain or something, completely decorated. His interviews are really, somber, because he's like down to earth and he's kind of like, you never want these things to happen. And I think he said something like, typically don't expect these things to happen when I'm like on board or whatever.
Yeah.
Happens, right? The other two dudes.
Yeah, rest in peace.
The Pakistani billionaire, Dawood, I forgot his first name. That guy I have issues with. Never mind. Because
don't rest in peace.
It's come out that his son, 19 years old, I think as the captain of the ship, I would age gate.
Yeah, that's the one I feel bad for. I heard that story where like he roped in his 19-year-old son who didn't want to go, right?
Yeah.
Now that's the sad part.
I thought of this when this happened, because I'm brown, but when this happened, this is Father's Day, and I sat there. I was like, no. His dad guilt tripped him.
Here's a better one, Par. I show up to your house with a shoebox, same setup, same submarine, but I said, hey, what about you and your son come with me?
Like, that's the thing. It's like
It's wild.
I was telling my wife, I'm like, at the time I didn't know the son's position, right? We didn't hear any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which now we're hearing from the billionaire's older sister, so the aunt of the kid. And it's basically, right, like, so at the time I was sitting there telling my wife, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this kid did not want to go because it's a Brown, it's Father's Day. Man, my dad was guilt tripping me on crazier shit. And I'm like this is something that, like, I don't know how you sign another person's. This is a decision you can only put on yourself. In no world is this a decision. Even my, like, no way I'm guilt tripping anybody onto this with me, right? Hell, the billionaire guy whose best friend backed out, like, he backed out. What is he gonna do? Like, hey man, you're a dick for doing that. You know what I mean? Like, no, right? Like, this is, you have to make this decision, but you also, as the person running this, I would put my own age gate on it. It's not like, oh, you're 18, you can make your own decisions. No. This is something else. This is like it's more probable that you die, right? I wouldn't feel right as a pilot to bring a 19-year-old down.
Wild. And the thing is that, sure, the billionaire, they want to go with the Titanic, fine. Do whatever you want on a casual Sunday. But they picked the one sub that was not regulated, that did not meet safety standards. And they displayed that fact. You could Google it. And crazy enough, when I first heard about the submarine,
all the experts.
My man, I looked at this and they called this shit Ocean Gate. I thought that was the name of the scandal. I was like what a name to give your company, right? Like Watergate, Ocean Gate. I was like, wow, like people already have a nickname for this. No, the company's named Ocean Gate. It was meant to be a scandal. Like this was shady business. You got, Looney Kazooie over here piloting the ship with the Game Boy controller. And people are saying that this is industry standard. A lot of submarines use controllers. But one thing they leave out is that, yes, submersible vessels do often use Bluetooth controllers. But most of the submersible vehicles that use it don't go down to the Titanic. Some of them do, but not all of them. When they're talking about submersible vehicles, they're talking about like something that's going down for like a little deep sea dive.
50 feet.
Yeah, like 50
like
feet, 100 feet.
feet.
They're going to see some coral reefs and that's it. We're not talking about the Titanic. Yeah. What a pose. Parr looks super high right here. Wow, look at that. What a beauty. Maybe he's not frozen. Maybe this is just how Parr is on a regular basis. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't think that they should have brought that teenager on board. That's wild. Or young adult, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah. I think like so this is something that they should do for like they do it for NASA. They do it for everything else. They even do it for like some amusement parks. I feel like not amusement parks in this light, but like when you take on like an extreme activity, they do a psych eval.
No,
and, did they do a psych eval on all of the people here? Because that's such an easy way for this kid.
They're already dodging safety regulations. There's no way they're doing a psych eval. Zero chance.
Yeah, which is interesting because apparently they did have like they had meetings and preparation like weeks prior. The diet thing, you said that, like they had things like that, but like the psych eval is what they needed to get like this kid not there. And that was like the tragic thing where the aunt comes out and says like the kid did it because he felt bad, like his Father's Day and his dad really wanted him to go, and his dad really loves the Titanic, which is a really,
the Titanic is so boring
in my opinion. Like,
oh man, I love that sunken ship. It was awesome.
Like there's so many things to be like a fanatic about, and I get the Titanic thing, but like this is where the billionaires, yes, I talked nicely about the Hamish Harding guy. I don't know if that's his real name or like that's his name or whatever. I have like 3 issues, and you guys know me. I know a billionaire or two in my thing, and hey, me and Sai have talked about it if we were billionaires. First problem. I don't even know which one to start with. First problem. I am a billionaire. I am a billionaire, Sai. You know, there are successful how am I a billionaire and I can't just let me just drop $1 billion?
It wouldn't even need $1 billion. Like the guy spent way less. The guy shopped at Home Depot for that submarine. Like Ain't no way this guy can't buy something crazy.
And I'm gonna put a hot tub in my submarine.
Hire the best scientists, the
I'm
best
putting a hot tub in my
safety
submarine.
equipment, the best engineering team. And then you know what? Have all of them come down with you.
Yeah.
Like, it is that easy. Like, you have the money. You have the money.
Copy. You have, like, these aren't millionaires. Like, these aren't
It's
like
not
people
like a
who have a lot of
across the
money
street
and
that's
this is
wealthy.
their hobby.
No, these are
and this is the
billionaires.
love of their
That
life.
is why when I first heard the story that the billionaires were missing, my mind immediately went to like a giant submarine, like super crazy lounge. You know, they're all tipping glasses of wine.
I'm not shitting.
And then and then like you said, like we go to the reality of it, and they're taking a dump behind a curtain, like 2 feet away from you, and you can't even stand up. It's like, no way. Like, what the hell is going on here?
No way. Like, I commend them for being humble and down to earth to like bring themselves down to humanity, but that's not what humanity would even sign up for. The common man would still not sign up for that. Even in a third world country, I pull up someone from a third world country, they're starving poor. I'm pretty sure I couldn't pay them to still want to do that, right? Like, you could, obviously, like, it's a hyperbole, but like the living conditions is not like I don't know if they're that disconnected from humanity that they're like, oh no, this is what normal people.
And I know some people are going to say, hey, like, guys, like, you're being too harsh. Like, he's a billionaire, but of course he didn't want a submarine. The guy's a fan of the Titanic. Like, he literally loves the Titanic. If he should have just had his own submarine, just go there every other weekend or something, you know? Like, I don't understand it.
It's not like, there are design schematics. They're built. Tell me at what point in power and wealth can you just start doing crimes like stealing blueprints from submarines? No one gives a shit about submarines. Like, yeah, like the US Navy, but they're not making submarines to go down there. You know who's making it? Scientists. You know what you could do? Hey, Mr. Science Man, you poor ass brokey, I'm gonna give you $1 billion to fund your thing. Make me a goddamn submarine that works.
His money
not
back.
This convoluted.
After he goes, when he's not using it, sign other tourists up. Keep the scientists, keep the safety standards on deck, and then just make your money back. It is that simple. I don't know why he had to go on this rinky-dink shoebox to the Titanic with his son that he forced into, like, strong-armed into it. Like, it's wild.
Let me throw in the brown aspect too. This guy is brown. I'm gonna tell you a thing or two.
Ooh,
brown people who are rich, they love to show off. This guy is showing off to his son. Hey son, let's go this like worse than trailer park trash living standards for like 8 hours total to see a ship sunk at the bottom. No one seen it. Why? Because no one cares. Because it's in a dangerous place where we probably will die. Like, why? Why not?
From
make
personal experience, they are way better than that submarine. It makes no sense to me. Like, maybe there's just something we don't get. Maybe it's the affluenza hitting them, but I don't know, man. Like, that is wild. And yeah. Oh God, no. Go on. I thought that was all of it. Hit me with the other straws. Is it plastic or biodegradable?
No. Second straw. I am a billionaire. No, it's not that. Like, listen, you and I, we run YouTube accounts. You and I have more contingencies in place if something goes wrong. You're telling me the CEO of a foundation of billions, maybe trillions of dollars, whatever, goes missing. And there's the Hamish. I want to talk about the Hamish Harding guy. No offense to
we are saddened by the loss of human life, but god dang, like, this is a wacky situation.
Yeah. You can't tell me that if I'm a billionaire, my wife, my secretary, my people, the minute I go missing, the minute I'm off of the planet, no one can find me. There's not like 10 different plans that go in place. You do this, you do that, you do this, blah, blah, blah. You fund this. None of them ever came out and said, we will fund the excavation, the search and rescue. You're telling me people who lose their kids, like normal human beings that get their kids kidnapped, they put out bounties. Please find my children. You're telling me a billionaire can't just fund this operation? No, at this point, we still think that the governments are going to back the thing. That we don't even know where the bill is going. There's no precedent for it. But you know what I would think a billionaire would do? I would have a contingency. And I'm talking specifically about the explorer guy because this is his life. He always does this thing. You'd have plans in place if this guy goes missing or dies. And you're telling me none of those things got hit? Hey, because I didn't walk through the timeline yet. The sub went missing for 8 hours before anybody got contacted. If I'm a billionaire, no. 10 minutes of me off the grid,
yeah,
someone needs to know. You know what I mean? Like the bat signal goes up. Like my heart is tied to a satellite. If my heartbeat misses off this planet, the satellite rains down messages onto all these signals. Yo, find me. Like, you know what I mean?
I feel like
that's
maybe we, the common man, I feel like we might be giving them too much credit. That could be it. We're giving them too much credit. Like when we think of billionaires, we're thinking of like Bruce Wayne, you know, like crazy big brain schemes. But in reality, it's just a goober strong arming his son to go onto a ship that's the size of a shoebox. Like that. At the end of the day, that's what it is.
I like made up so many accents in the car ride yesterday with my wife. I was like, I was half expecting once I heard billionaires, right? I knew billionaires were going to be there. Like the headline, next thing you know, it's like, oh, these are uber rich people, what? 250K tickets. But you know what I expected next? I expected like a hard, like I kept on using like a mixed Russian, like Middle Eastern voice, but I was expecting like a loud booming, the Daoud Foundation will fund the research. And like,
I think it's
like,
hard because
you just hear Daoud Foundation, Daoud Foundation.
And this is off our coast. So it's kind of like, I heard that logic, but yeah, they are billionaires. Like they could at least say something. Like they own companies. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Let me tell you something about billionaires.
Yeah, they have connections.
They have sway. In every country. In every country, they have connections. Yeah. Like, and this is a small one. But I told my wife in this light, right? You and I are both billionaires. I go missing. As a friend, you know I feel like I would expend some money.
Like, when you have that much money, yo, like, you know, we look at that 250K and we're like, wow, like they dropped so much money, and that's more money than we probably ever see. But at the same time, to those guys, that's like nothing. That's like a trip to McDonald's.
That's nothing. Someone did the math, and it's like 3 sandwiches for them. 3 sandwiches for us is that money. So fair. But you're telling me I'm like, as a billionaire, I have no billionaire friends that are like caring about me in the moment, be like, you know, I'll drop 3 sandwiches on par. Like, you know, I would be, but I think I'd be hard. I would feel sad.
It was just nothing but
if I came to the surface and none of my friends dropped 3 sandwiches. But here's the thing too,
like there was one of the billionaires' stepsons. He came out and he kind of said like, yeah, I was just chilling. I think that is totally fine though. Like, what he said, he went to a Blink 182 concert and he was like, well, like even if I did do something, like what could I really do at the end of the day? Like I can't save him. Do I what?
Wait, did you look deeper into that guy though?
I didn't look deep. I just saw that one video and that was it. And I was like, you know what, that's fair.
Oh no, that guy, he said that even if he wanted to, he couldn't go help or be there for anybody because he's not allowed to fly.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
Because he just got released from jail. Because he threatened to shoot up a concert beforehand. And then he shut up the Blink 182 thing. And he's like, hey guys, my family would want me to listen to my favorite songs. And I'm like, I think nobody wants you at a concert because you just threatened. Like that was part of the reason why you went, and like some other crazy stuff. I don't like that guy. Hey, I don't know what he's inheriting right now.
He's probably chilling.
I don't
want to
make
point,
enemies.
But yeah, he was a little bit of a menace, right? He could be a menace. I think coping wise, I think going to a concert and not really worrying, but also knowing that you're powerless. That's totally fair. I think that's
can
fine,
understand.
Justified. Yeah,
people cope.
I didn't know that it
but
connected to his previous crimes, though. I think that's kind of wild. I did not know that.
The issue wasn't that he did that. The issue was you didn't need to post about it.
Yeah, no, who is this guy?
Nobody
that's
knows
my reaction too. Like the way he opened up, it felt like a YouTuber apology video. I was like, who is this man? Like, does he have a following?
Yeah. So he apparently afterwards, he was exposed for trying to contact a bunch of women.
Yeah, he had a lot of racial and sexual remarks on his account, so he deleted his accounts afterwards.
I think there's like leaked DMs about like he was trying to get a sympathetic like viewpoint because of his father's situation. And that's all there, right? Like, and
Mixed bag.
every
It's all
family,
good.
mixed bag, whatever. But like as far as these individuals go, I can't fathom a world where I have amassed billions of dollars and I don't have a fail safe for if I go missing. Like at the minimum, it's not even that hard in the internet age. Like it's just wild to me. And the fact is, it's like as you start off, it's like the director of the Titanic said the same thing. It's like ironic how this is just a repetition of what the Titanic was. Where at least with the Titanic, it's like they didn't have enough time, like research, like these billionaires trusted it, right? And like, and there's a whole slew of conspiracies about how that Titanic went down. And at the end of the day, what we like as a baseline, we could say it's like hubris, right? They said it was unsinkable. Ironically, it sunk. Same situation. The guy literally said it's indestructible. Hey, you know what's really crazy about that? A single dent
Yeah.
can just implode, create the situation that they're in. And video footage came out from I think it was last year's expedition that they brought people on. And here's another issue before I get into the timeline, because I want to say the timeline out, because there's some things that I think are interesting in it. Timeline wise, right? Oh, not timeline wise. Last expedition, there's footage. As a tourist, he allowed the people to the CEO to let them drive the sub. And there's footage of them hitting a rock on the sea floor. And he's like, oh my God, you just have to go higher. No, don't hand the controller willy-nilly Billy over here. No, stop that. Like, can I just go buy a ticket on a plane, even first class, and walk in the cockpit? Hey, buddy, give me the fucking...
You
like,
hand
no,
off
like, that's not
the
happening.
GTA 5 RP controller to your little brother, and he runs into a building with your pristine Lambo, right? It's like, what are you doing? Like, don't touch this controller, man. Like, it's mine.
Yeah.
Bottom of the sea.
At the stakes that you're at, you can't just go, oops, we hit a rock.
I think he like laughed. Didn't he like laugh it off?
No,
He was like,
that is, like
it's like, bro, ain't no way. That would just kill everybody.
And it's like
in any other scenario.
Yeah, like if I was on that sub, mutiny, instant mutiny.
Speaking
I
of
would
mutiny,
boom from the back of the head. That guy's not touching that controller.
Was lost. I already knew they wouldn't make it out of there. Timeline, like when you think of the grand scheme of the timeline, the measures they would have to like go through, like finding the sub, releasing them, and everything, they would not realistically survive that scenario.
Yeah.
But
only like the first 2 days, first 2 days of the possibility of them being there.
The minute
it made sense. After that, I was telling my wife, like, no, it's over.
Mark, in my opinion, they were done, because even bringing them up from 14,000 feet all the way to the surface, you'd have to do it slowly, and we don't really have too many like crafts that can actually lift them up in that time frame in a safe manner. And then even then, like the air, like they're all panicking, they don't have that much air. We gave them 48 hours a couple days ago, but realistically it's probably more like 20 hours with how much they were probably talking beforehand, just everything going down. So in that regards, I didn't think they'd make it, but I had a prediction, which I was wrong, but I was like, man, if they knew they had limited oxygen, I felt like if they opened that ship, they'd probably find murdered bodies. The captain would probably be killed off by the crew. I had that in my head. I said at least 1 or 2 people on that ship are dead. Like I felt it in my bones.
See, it's interesting because they did have a pilot who was knowledgeable. Usually the person, like the CEO, would be protected because he's knowledgeable. He has like, at the end of the day, he has like all the maritime knowledge, the vessel knowledge, all that stuff. So in that light, he would be protected. But that did, at the last day, a lot of people were thinking about like, yo, what if they start killing people? And I was saying that I didn't want to make content on this because I had the educational one, and my wife was like, oh, like you should cover like some of the things. I just didn't feel like, because I knew that they were dead, and I was like, at the end of the day, I would be making content like around like false hopes or just filling in like an algorithm about like people who are probably dead and even not. It's like a tragic story. That's like like I'm gonna be covering tragic stuff in the past, but it's like it's too close, and it's like a lot of the stuff is sad. It didn't feel right. And then like on top of that, the only time I wanted to do it was because it was just this really crazy thing where people were like, yo, they were like almost fantasizing about like, you know, you're talking about it like this is just realistic, right? You go crazy, you're starved, blah blah. That's fine. People were making like stories about how like which people are going to do it, who's going to do it. I hope they let the 19, and that kind of bothered me. So what I wanted to put up was this reality is that it's honestly, if you're in that situation in a closed vessel, you cannot kill somebody. You absolutely cannot, because they have O2 like tanks, right? That's providing oxygen, and they have CO2 scrubbers. CO2 scrubbers are meant to take this carbon dioxide out of the air so that you can efficiently breathe, because you can't just have carbon dioxide and oxygen. Even if you have enough oxygen, that's a problem. You'll go delirious, or you'll like start fainting or whatever. It's just not good. So you need those CO2 scrubbers. And that's another, when you were saying like, you know, realistically, they have anxiety, they're panicking, they're taking up more breath. They're not professionals. They're not professional breathers.
They're not Navy SEALs.
They're not doing yoga. They don't do Pilates. Like, they're not doing that shit. Yeah, they're not doing any of that. So the 96 hours that they said, I told my wife, like realistically, optimistically, I think that's the maximum.
Those guys were like strategizing from the minute they hit the ocean.
And then you take in the fact that that minimum or like maximum that they gave, I was like, you have to subtract like 12 hours because those CO2 scrubbers, they're probably not pristine. That's the other thing. You have to maintain those. He didn't maintain the ship. Why is he maintaining those? Right? Like he's not. So if those aren't perfectly efficient, if they're not maintained, you cut a bunch of hours. That's why, again, for me, it was like, if it wasn't in the first or second day, it's gone. It's wraps. But if you end up killing somebody, what a lot of people don't know is your body, throughout your body, contains gases. When you die, those gases are released, and those gases are toxic. And usually that's how you smell a dead body, very quickly, honestly. Now, you can argue about the decomposition rates at the cold bottom of the ocean, but at the end of the day, you're cramped in 5 bodies. There's not a lot of space. There's not a lot of like volume for that. Yeah, not a lot of volume for that air to circulate, and there's nothing to take that air out. So you have, and the main part that immediately, without decomposition, is your stomach acids. Your stomach acids and all of that stuff, your digestive tract, it releases everything. And then so every person you end up killing expedites your death as a person. And so like a lot of people don't take that into account. And obviously I'm talking hypothetically here. I don't know how many hours that would eliminate, but I guarantee you it definitely does not help the situation. At the heat of the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah. It would be a conclusion that they would just execute it on the bat. Yeah. Like I don't think they would like really think it through, which like I said, I don't blame them. Like it's a do or die situation, but which thankfully it ended up imploding, which I say thankfully because it's more painless than, you know, a slow death. So
which I'll shed some light on, but like you're saying, right? Like the in the heat of the moment, and that's the only reason why I want to make that TikTok, is because that's like an educational point, guys. Don't kill each other because we have toxic gases in us and they get released, and that's like a learning thing, right? Like guys, like one, I would be hopefully stopping a conversation about fantasizing about like people murdering each other or eating each other. Eating each other is also worse because then you have to expel those gases, and those gases are not good for you either, because that the CO2 scrubbers don't take the methane or whatever else you get, and then you're also increasing the amount. You know, you said you have to have a special diet. That diet does not consist of humans, right? So you can't be doing that either. So, you know, all of that being said, let's get into the timeline now. So this is, I didn't sit down and write down this thing. This is just off the memory, but I kept track, mental note. A lot of people, you know, they kept on giving daily updates about these things and having to like retcon certain things because new information. But so apparently start time Sunday 7 a.m. so Father's Day 7 a.m. they go on this expedition. It takes 2.5 hours to go down. About an hour and a half into their descent, they get a distress call followed by silence. So that they didn't hear anything. They not a distress call. It was like an update that there was like a lukewarm thing if you are a normal person. But apparently for the knowledgeable people, that was a problematic thing. And that was the last message they heard. 8 hours after that last message, that is when the proper authorities, Coast Guard, everyone, that is when they were notified. That 8 hours is very important. We'll get back to this because this is the timeline we're going with right now. And then I'll go back and I'll update it with what we found out like yesterday because it's really illuminating. So we do that 8 hours. The reason why they said they thought 8 hours made sense was because it's common to lose communication down there at that depth. It's not like the same thing as space. A lot of people are confused. Like, we can track satellites in space. We can even track sharks in the ocean. That depth, water is your satellites don't reach down there the same way. You have to have very specific kind of communication and lines and infrastructure for that, which to the sub, to the mothership they have, but outside of that, they don't necessarily have those things. Now, that is what we're told, all that stuff. And they're like, you know what? Losing communication is fine. We've been on this before. Maybe this is a normal thing. This is Ocean Gate, though. Don't trust them, right? Whatever. 8 hours later, notified. Now, this is when the world starts finding out, oh my God, billionaire, this guy, that guy, submarine, underwater. We have 96 hours. That's when the timeline starts going down. Everyone, clocks are ticking, right? So we go the next day. They're basically discussing the reality that this submarine has 7 fail-safes for being stuck at the bottom. They could drop there. I think there's 3 ways to drop weights that are manual. There's one way that's completely autonomous. If the ship is under there, I think for 12 to 14 hours, it automatically releases a bunch of stuff that should bring you to the top. And I think 2 or 3 of them are electrical based, which is like they would like an air thing, like a bag, a balloon, that kind of thing. And it's supposed to float you up. All of those things led people to believe that, hey, maybe it's on the surface, maybe it's somewhere there, so let's search somewhere there, because maybe they got pulled off coast, maybe they did this or that, and they're somewhere on the surface. Let's start searching there, right? Reason why they need to do that is because there's not many submarines on hand in the area accessible that can make it to the Titanic. No Navy stuff, as far as we know, don't need to go that deep because it's not necessary. It's not, we're not fighting countries at the bottom of the ocean, so the navies across the world typically don't need to go that far. And so they stay at I think just below where whales are. I think sperm whales are at like 900 feet or something. I think our subs are like around there too. And this is at 12,000 feet or something like that. So, it's not normal for us to be down there. So they're searching on the surface, but they're also bringing in the government of Canada and the US might to bring up these people, which another point we'll come back to, because that's a huge talking point. And there is 2 unmanned rovers that are able to go to a certain depth that they are able to access that level. But then when it comes to bringing it back up, not necessarily capable of. At that time, what they were thinking of, these rovers would be able to help in the situation that they... By the way, guys, I know this sounds batshit crazy, but some reason I still question this. Apparently, a part of the expedition is to take the submarine inside the Titanic wreckage, which I'm going to go on a limb is just a bad idea. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a wreck. Like, you don't even go in abandoned buildings when they're like on the surface. Why are you going to abandoned building on the sea floor? And so the idea was that maybe they got stuck in the wreckage, which I'm like... That's their fault. What are you doing? So they thought this rover could maybe dislodge it from there. Okay, cool. And I'll give them a benefit of the doubt. One of the past researchers did say that when they were piloting it, they got caught up in an underwater current that pushed them into the rudder of the Titanic. So they didn't plan on going ashore, guy. And what the guy said was that when they crashed in the Titanic debris fell. And I'm like... Isn't that like maybe that happens?
Maybe you
and
don't
you
want
never
that.
do that shit ever again. But no, yeah. And so that guy was saying maybe they got caught in that underwater current that he got caught into, crashed into the Titanic and needed help. If their ballast automatically released, then they would get stuck into the rudder. So the rovers would help in that instance. Cool, great. Moving along, air's trickling out, all this stuff. We're losing optimism. Important note, I believe it's Tuesday morning, I believe. We start using all the resources possible. Everybody starts becoming a detective on the internet. Fair, whatever. You know, one thing I did like was that we got a lot of experts putting their opinion in, and all of them agreed this guy was batshit crazy. Ain't no way. We got people who experts in carbon fiber. She was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It sounds like this guy just bought carbon fiber and did whatever the hell he wanted. And then we got people like the bolts. So here's a whole aspect, guys, that we didn't mention yet. This submersible, they can't leave
from the outside.
What I was mentioning.
They
go ahead, describe it. Go ahead, describe
is shut from the outside. So even if they surface, they would have no air, no way of getting out. They would have to bring a special team to get them out of that. So even if the Coast Guard found him, they'd have to call for a different team, which would take another plethora of hours to get them out of there. Like, that is wicked. I don't know who designed this submarine. And you could say, oh, you know, the controller is standard design, you know, the shape's standard design. That right there is not necessarily standard design. That is something else. The guy MacGyvered that stuff. I don't know.
Not only is it a tube that goes underwater to a place where it should not go and it's homemade, no, it's also a tube that is locked, shut, wrapped up. But here's the kicker, Sai. 17 bolts on the outside. Odd number. I don't trust odd numbers in that regard. Like, it needs to be symmetrical, from my opinion, but that's just me. The bolts, people looked at it. I told my wife, I'm like, you know what's funny about those bolts? We use that on our baby's crib.
Yep.
It's the same size bolt. It's literally bolts you could get from the hardware store. And like, people were saying like, yo, we have pipes at the bottom of the ocean and these bolts are like the size of your head, like this big. And I'm like, yeah, I trust that head size bolt. I've never seen that at Home Depot. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's some things. Yeah. Mass manufacturing. You know what also is mass manufactured? Industrial level locking mechanisms. And that's where the other part that I really liked, the welding. Welders came out. 3 welders. They're professional. Like, people don't know this, but professional welding is a rarity. You can get paid Bezos bucks to be like an end stage welder. Oh my God, it's crazy how much money they make. But they also, because it's like underwater welding or high up welding, it's scary, but you're welding. Yeah, it's crazy. They earn it. Cool. These people came out and looked at the welding from the images and they were like, no, this is like toddler welding. Like, you're telling me this was supposed to withstand the compression of the ocean? And they were explaining the science of welding and all that stuff.
The
and
submarine
like,
was made in his garage.
This is not real, guys. Yeah. So like 9 different ways that the way packed in. So tying back in, once you like halfway mark, they started realizing like it would take a long time for them to come up, but depending on the time of day, they couldn't even get them out within like hours. It would be like 8 hours reasonably, because they'd have to bring out a team in the middle of the ocean and then crane this thing that doesn't have a landing pad anymore because they have to jettison it off in order for it to rise. And all that stuff. So they're locked in. Cool. Crazy. Awesome. Great. I love that they did that. Love that choice. I love that that was a thing, right? Another thing, so the other part was carbon fiber hull, titanium cap, right? There's an issue already there. I did engineering. Material science is very important. Yeah, this is actually important for bridges. Most major bridges, actually, this is important for you guys to know. If you pay very close attention to a major bridge like the George Washington in New York, it's built with gaps. The metal has gaps in it. So there's like a bridge. The reason why is because in wintertime and summertime, the metal expands and contracts. So if they built it flush, the build would, during summertime, the bridge would essentially break because it expanded into each other. So they built gaps. So during summertime, and it's not small gaps. No, these are like a foot. Like a foot of gap in metal. And so it's built there so that when summertime on the surface, we're talking like 80 degrees weather, 90-degree weather, the metal will expand, boom. There's obviously carbon, like not carbon, greenhouse, like, heat trapping that takes place. But we're talking about the bottom of the ocean, 8,000 psi. And the metals expand and contract differently, titanium, carbon fiber. And so what the people were saying is that when, like, he was going off the logic that at that pressure nothing would able to break this 7-inch thing. But what people were saying is that even if you, like, let's take I was wearing a jacket, right, and my jacket had a zipper, and my zipper made a microscopic scratch on either side of the finishing, that would be enough for water to press through at that pressure to make like a laser beam and just break through it and break it. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? And the crazy part is people found visual scuffs. Like they paused the screen and you could see a visual cut across it. And the people are like, nah, the moment you see that, you walk out. All it looked like was like my zipper from my jacket just grazed it. That's it. That's all it takes. So that's another aspect of it, right? We started getting hope again because, believe it or not, we have microphones at the bottom of the ocean. The US has all these microphones, and we started hearing an odd thing. Every 30 minutes for a few hours, I believe, a frequent banging. Now, that banging was later, I don't know if it's confirmed, but a lot of people in mainstream media has also touted this, that it was Morse code for SOS. Which, if you guys already know the ending of the story, is very odd to happen on Tuesday or Wednesday of this thing. So we were like, oh my God, they're alive. They're sending us a message. They need help. Let's go. Right? So then, was it Thursday? No, Wednesday. Wednesday was like the last few hours of thing. Thursday morning was the kind of like the end of the oxygen thing. But in the morning, Thursday morning, they basically said like, yo, we're not going to be treating this like a rescue, not a rescue, a recovery. It's still a rescue, even if we think that they ran out of oxygen. And I'll explain later why. But very soon after, I think 12 on Thursday, they discover with the rover that was sent like prior, shipped over, they found a debris field. Two things that they found was the cone piece at the back. So it's a pointy back. I believe it's titanium. They found that. So the center hull is the primarily carbon fiber. The end caps are the titanium, from my understanding. And so they found the titanium end cap. I think they saw it was fragmented, which also beyond just finding that separated, told them it imploded. All, everything kind of like shifted from there. We got the official news very soon after. The Coast Guard announced, the US Navy announced, all this stuff. We found out that they uploaded about 4 days, Sunday to Thursday, right? The world, we expended so much material. I know a few people I talked to yesterday, they weren't like, they didn't realize how big of a deal this was. But if you were on social media, you knew how much coverage this was getting. To the point is now people think it's a conspiracy. And that is where I want to bring back the timeline a little bit. I'm not a big conspiracy thing on this front, like these kinds of things, especially these tragedies. I think you'd have to have a lot of evidence, in my opinion. And here's the thing. I get why people are doing it right now because of this. The US Navy released top secret information that we knew that they imploded on Sunday. We already knew on Sunday that they imploded. The US Navy just did not release that information. They heard what sounded like a submarine exploding or imploding next to the Titanic. This is confirmed, multiple sources, to the point that the director of the Titanic, the movie, he's been down the Titanic 30 times. He has now come out and he has said that because he's not top US military, no, even him, he has had access to information saying that on Sunday, an hour after the announcement publicly, he found out that, yes, we audibly heard a Navy submarine imploding. And so then a lot of people were put into like, so why did we get sent on this wild goose chase? Like, there's insane amount of world news that happened in in this week that was like kind of scrubbed over because of the submarine thing. You tie in billionaires into the thing. You know, one of my first thoughts was like, yo, you include billionaires in any story and they're dying. That means that they were hit. Like someone created this scenario. All that stuff. Sure. Cool. Right. A naval officer came and she didn't get any views, but I ended up seeing she had like 100 likes by the time I saw the video. I think more people should see it, but she was saying that the reason why the Navy did not like stop the search and just say like, oh, we heard it, is because it's not like a crisp phone call. It's not like this podcast where you hear me and Sai speak like very like we're in your room next to you like a friend, right? They have to decode, like there's so many sounds in the ocean. They have to like take away this sound, take away that sound, and then they have to match it with this thing. It's a whole science. And so there's a certain probability where they're like, maybe this is a submarine, maybe it's not. They were highly confident, but this goes into the other conversation which is, yo, if you or I made a homemade submarine, we took a Canadian, we took a Mexican, we went down to the bottom of the ocean in my homemade submarine. I asked my wife, I was like, do you think the government would expend this much resource for us? Like if they knew? Some people said, yeah, like some of my friends were like, it's the US government. They have to like flex like that. But the thing is, like, in reality, us normal people, I don't think they would expend. They would just be like, yeah, they exploded. No reason to search. Right. So then on top of that, these people signed up for it, knew it, paid $250K a pop. They signed up for it. They signed waivers knowing that they would die. We expended millions, multi-millions in trying to get them out. So why would you do that if you already knew that they were imploded? Why wouldn't you tell the families that there's no hope? Why would you bring them along in the hope thing? And the reason why was this naval officer said is that there is precedent where there was a Russian sub that was bottomed at the bottom of the ocean, but at more reasonable depth. And they heard what sounded like a explosion type of deal with this sub, and they called off the search. They said, nope, they're dead. There's no reason to waste resources. But a bunch of private people, a bunch of other people, this is at a depth where they could find it. And they were like, no reason to do it. But later on, they ended up finding it. They found the sub, and when they brought it to the surface and cracked up the hatch, they found documented proof that these people were alive for a long period of time, writing down journals, writing down notes that told them that they were tracking time well past like even like the amount of time that it would have taken to get them originally. They would have been saved, easily saved. But so because of that precedent, especially maritime stuff, because we know so little about the oceans, everyone goes with the air of caution. Anybody's going in the ocean, they treat it all, let's throw everything at it to save it. That's what the naval officer is saying, the US naval officer. And I'm like, that's great. The world won't take it like that, though. It's sad, but the world won't take it like that. And you know, going back in the timeline, there's one missing thing. And I was like, and no one has answered this to me.
What was
the Morse code? What was the every 30 minute? Yeah, because what they found out, I didn't clue this in. On Sunday, they heard the implosion. And here's the thing. The last call that the Titan sub gave to the surface was, we need to release our ballasts. The ballasts are basically like the legs of the submarine, so it lands flat and stuff like that. So it's a tube, but it has a landing platform. They have sandbags, a ballast, and a leg. So they drop all of those things to resurface, the dropping weight, right? Littering the ocean. Cool, right? And so that was the last call. They were saying, we need to drop that. And so what the director and all the people are saying is that you'd only do that if you knew that you were descending too fast and you were trying to abort the mission and come back to the top. So what that is implying is that they didn't die not aware of the situation. They died knowing that they were about to die. And that is the ultimate, like, yes, they probably instantly died, but it wasn't like boom.
It wasn't like they were
trying to prevent their death.
They knew it was coming. Or maybe they didn't know. Maybe they tried to stay hopeful, because it did happen probably Sunday, I think is what it was like. So they probably were still holding out to hope.
Sunday confirmed,
at the end,
basically.
So it's still tragic final moments, but
and
it's crazy.
At the minimum, at the minimum, they're saying the CEO.
And the CEO, like, if I was the CEO in that position, I would try to keep them as hopeful as possible. Like, you know what? I made the call. I think we're great. Yeah, like what else can you do?
Yeah, but that crackhead dude, see, this is the issue with like self-proclaimed genius, right? Like he's like gonna over-explain, tell them this is I don't worry guys, I got this. I'm super smart. This is indestructible. Don't worry. Like I could see that in him. Like he's not a social person. You've heard his speech, like him talking in public, right? Like I feel like when in high stress social, he'd break down. 100%. And then there's the trained pilot who probably knew, and then the adventurer who probably knew, and the only person who probably was in the dark was.
But I mean, they can't really have any conversation in private though, considering they're like earshot away from each other.
Yeah. I want to be hopeful that they did die instantly, which I'm not going to disagree with the experts, but from what I understood of what the wreckage was, I think that it's kind of not as what we think it was. I think it was more along the lines, and I want to hit one last thing before, because I gave the timeline out, but I'm curious to hear what your thoughts were during that time. But from what I know was that, from what it sounded like at least, the back pipe piece was split. It was split, and for me, it's kind of like that sounds like it took the brunt of the pressure. So meaning that like you want to think that it imploded like that, and we've had examples where it went like that. But if the two end caps were the strong parts and the failure was at the front, what might have happened was the front failed, and it might have not been like, it might have been so quick that they got it, but it might have been that the water pressed them against the back. Sorry, I clapped. It might have been that the water pressed them into the back and they all got squished into each other, into the end stage pipe. And that's kind of what, because like it could implode, but if the front had the failure rather than a dent on the top or side, and they have the back and front intact, I'm kind of like, so it didn't implode like that. It imploded by the top popping off, boom, and then they got crushed like that, which, you know, it's probably still instant, but it's a little different than what people are thinking about. Especially because one of the people did describe it like if it was a microscopic break in the welding in the thing, then it would be like a water laser beam. And I'm like, yo, that's scary, because like water can cut anything. Like people like you can cut diamonds with water. Like they literally, if it's that high pressure through a mini hole, it's like everyone's dead. It could be like that too.
Who knows, man?
So
at least it was quick.
Who knows? But Yeah, but I'm curious, like, at this point, right? Like, with all this information now, like, what were you thinking of, like, after you started getting the last part? Because I think we were,
what do you mean by
relatively on
part?
The same understanding, even though.
Oh,
like,
what's the
takeaway here? Because I've said, like, for me in the past, yeah, like for me, like I'm like, these guys aren't scientists; they're doing it for fun. Like, what do we the world like centralized on this? Like I said, stop disrespecting the ocean. The other part that I didn't say, it's like all it takes is one whale to just not like care and just bump into it. All it takes is an octopus.
Had no takeaway from this.
We know octopuses are big. That's what's upsetting. Like, not that you didn't have a takeaway. It's like the world came together.
I had no takeaway from this because I would like to think I would never put myself in that situation, and I'd already think of all the downsides. Like, yeah, the ocean is already scary. Like, I didn't need the submarine story to like solidify that, right? It wasn't like I was on the fence, like, oh, tomorrow I'm gonna go on the Titanic, or go see it. I'm gonna go wave at the ghosts. Like, I never had that mindset. And even then, it's like if I want to go on even if I go on a cruise ship, I'm making sure like it's done like 50, 100 documented trips. It lives up to all the standards. Like, that's what I'm saying. I have no takeaway. Like, I did not learn anything new from this situation. Like, any lesson that there was to learn here is a lesson that I feel like people should already have learned. So I had zero takeaway.
Right.
The main takeaway is that people memed on this pretty fast. Which is interesting, because it's like, how soon is too soon, right?
Yeah.
Because people were saying like there was still a chance that they were alive. Like, we all kind of believe like, oh, like we have some hope. They could make it out of this. But even with that, like if those guys made it out, they'd see like billions of memes about those guys on the sub, which is pretty sad. And it's telling of the times. But I feel like it was always there. Like with the introduction of the internet,
The
like
only
these memes were gonna
person,
happen. Like how soon is too soon? Well, there's already a documentary about the submarine. The documentary released yesterday. And then I promise you,
yeah,
Netflix is gonna have a little series
yeah,
about
at
it
the
coming
end.
out in maybe like a year or two, right? Like, and I bet they're already working on it. Like that's just kind of how it is. I don't think when people say how soon is too soon, I feel like that's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah, I think the two things I would say to that is like the if that 19-year-old came up, I think he would have the ultimate world pass of like trauma, like not that he could do no wrong, but like people that would be the only person that gets like sympathy, unless he was like a complete psycho. But then even if he came out a complete psycho, like I think everyone would be like, yeah, like his
Yeah, but
dad,
I don't
like
think it would
all of his
excuse him from any
trauma, you know what
crimes
I
in the
mean? Like
future,
that's
though.
the only guy
I'm
who,
not that crazy. Okay, memes.
no, no,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
crimes. I mean the memes, like the memes. Yeah, yeah. Like everyone would be
Yeah, like I
sympathetic
feel
towards
bad for the
him.
19
Nobody
year old, but
else
everybody
except for
else,
him,
like,
in my opinion.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is like as far as too soon, right? Like I get it. Like these and the other part of it, it's an uphill battle. These are billionaires. It's not people we are connected to. These are people who made a decision that like no other person can even fathom of that decision. This is a house money. This is like college money. This is like your lifetime's like amount of money before you retires to some people. Like some people would wish to have that in their bank account over the years of them saving up, but then you get like hospital bills, your kid needs a surgery, like just random life things. It chips it away. 250 grand is, backing up to reality, a lot of money. And these guys were able to toss it away, and they're billionaires. It's sandwich money for them. Cool. That I think that at the end of the day is why the memes are so readily created for them. Then you add Stockton Rush, the CEO of Ocean Gate. That guy is born to be memed. He looks like a meme.
I
He
thought
is
him
a
in the
meme.
submarine
Like
video was a
everything he
parody
said is a meme.
when I
Like
first watched it.
like my high school robotics team would meme him like so hard. You take him to the robotics world championships, the things that he was saying is like, yeah, you sound like a high schooler, but not like a successful like person. You know what I mean? Like this is like, let's test it out, but let's not test it out on people. Like, you know what I mean? Even for not to talk about this, but like even at worlds, like for robotics, we had backup machines for just robots hitting each other. Like we had backups, backup parts, backup thing. This guy didn't have a backup sub. I can't. Like again, the billionaires. If anybody had billions of dollars, anybody
I
looking
think
at
the
the story,
reason
they
why
would
the
have
memes were
contingency
so
plans.
prevalent too is because
Like
the more we learned about the submarine and the safety of it,
the worse it got.
the easier it was to meme on it, right? Like at first it's like, oh god, high class submarine, I can't believe it. What
Yeah.
monstrosities in the ocean? Is this like that kaiju movie? Is Godzilla like eating them downstairs? And then the more we learn, it's like, okay, you got a PlayStation controller, you got a crazy CEO, a submarine made out of carbon fiber. They're visiting the Titanic that's 15,000 feet down. They have no oxygen. They didn't prep for this. It's like the more we learn, the crazier the story gets.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about like all the stuff that's happening in that regard. And hey, like listen, the entire situation.
I didn't think the
is
Titanic
kind
would
of,
get a sequel until now.
Woo, let
I
me
thought
just
it was impossible. I said they're not gonna bring back a ghost ship, but it's like, hey, you had a cruise ship crashing an iceberg. Now you have a Titan sub exploding underwater. Like this is like the perfect sequel. James Cameron is freaking living large.
it's so it's so crazy, but like
Yeah.
here's another question, right? Like we did this, people are doing this, and people are saying like, why are we doing this? I don't agree with that. I think like this
Like,
kind of
why are
thing
we
will
talking
always
about
always exist. I
the
think
submarine?
what the Stockton Rush is,
Oh.
no, like going to the bottom of the ocean, right? Like I think Stockton Rush's baseline of reason to do this kind of thing valid. I think there's going to always be someone who's going to want to do that. I think a lot of people want to know about the bottom of the ocean. It's just super difficult. But we also have no militaristic reason as to that being useful, which is why we don't have
Put oil down there.
You make the bottom of the
game
ocean
over.
like a military field, boom. That's yeah. I mean, we do. I found out that we have an oil rig in the middle of the ocean where its pipe
Yeah.
is like longer than the Empire State Building down, and it's free hanging. And I'm like, what? What is that? That's crazy. And so like, you know, as far as like people saying like, you know, we shouldn't be doing this, this is in excess of money. No, I think we should be doing this stuff. But like, so now there's a question like, are they gonna ban people from going to the Titanic? Is this gonna ruin it? Right? Like that. I don't think that should be a takeaway, but that is some people's takeaway. That's where it's like it's a little interesting. I'm curious to see what kind of like regulations or law stuff that comes into place as a result of this, because my wife was saying like, it's so easy. Why can't we just ban this kind of thing? It's so hard to ban. You can't ban this kind of thing. You have the resources. It's international waters. We can have an entire episode. It's lawless. Like you could, like people literally kill each other on cruise ships and they don't get prosecuted for it because there's no way the cruise ship doesn't want to be liable for it. So they just say it's international waters. Someone just disappeared. Oh, they got tossed overboard. Just random shit like that. International waters are scary. Then you have billionaires. Listen, if these billionaires had a brain, they could just make their own submarine. Easy. They make mega yachts worth 10, 100 times more than what this submarine costs. All you have to do is put all that tech into a submarine. Boom. You have a billionaire who's going to do this anyways. The only reason why they wouldn't be doing it is because they don't want to get accidentally nuked by a government sub, right? Like you're not exactly, you can't really like party like it's like the Bahamas, a resort down in the sub, which is why, you know, that doesn't exist. But as far as like, I see the value. I see
there
us
should be a
going
ban.
down there, doing that. I think, yeah, and that's what's like the James Cameron, the director guy, who's a very, very decorated person, where he's a movie director, but he has the respect of the maritime community, and then like all of these people who interact with with that part of the world, they're gonna be like memed on as well. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why are you doing this? I saw a video. I don't know if this girl was making a joke, but she said she got hired by a company to send people down in submarines as a tourist expedition, very, very deep. And she didn't put any things, and she just started breaking out into tears. This was before like the news came out. She's like wishing, and then you just see her, like her thing was like she's living on a boat for the next like 2 months because like of her work conditions. And you see she's wearing a sweater that says Ocean Gate. And like she says, yeah. And so like she said she got hired beforehand, and so she's already there. But like now all of this, she's worried. And it's like, you know, she's
Ocean Gate's gonna go down
all of Ocean Gate's gonna get memed on. All the submarine
their number
people,
one submarine
all
just
the hobbyists
died along with their
the people in the
COO.
water.
So I mean, it's gone.
Yeah.
As far-
it's
what's
sad, right?
I was gonna say, you
and
know what's
like-
funny too?
No. What are you gonna say?
It's like a curse on the CEO's family, because his wife, her great grandmother, was actually on board the Titanic. Yeah. Her great grandparents were on the Titanic, and they both passed away there.
Yeah.
And now we have her husband who also passed away. So she's, I mean, granted, I doubt she knew her great grandparents, you know, like I don't even know mine, but it's crazy that like that curse is like existing. Maybe that's even a reason why like they had the Titanic expedition in the first place. Maybe it spawned from her, and she's like, hey, Titanic, great grandparents were there, and the guy had money, and he was like, hey, you know, I could build something in my garage.
He's also hey, this is where conspiracy side comes into too, because apparently Stockton Rush is a direct descendant of 2 people who signed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, that one's lamer.
Who gives a shit? Like he signed his. Yeah, and so then the wife being connected to the people, these weren't just random rich people. If you guys remember, Titanic was filled with a bunch of rich, very rich people, and JP Morgan was this is the conspiracy side. They're saying like JP Morgan was going to go on, but him and all of his friends did not go on. And all the people that died on the Titanic were and not antagonists, but I can't think. It's opposition for the Federal Reserve, which was created by JP Morgan and his buddies, which
he got some good news that week.
Insurance and all that stuff. And so people are saying that and so the JP Morgan, I think, also partially is funded for, so the Titanic has a sister ship, the Olympia. And so what they're saying is that the Olympia went in, had not a defect, it crashed. And so what they said was, as a tax evasion thing and whatever, he swapped the ships. That this is the conspiracy. I'm not verifying. There's a lot to it though, and he said it with explosives. So people who have investigated the Titanic, that's another reason why a lot of people want to investigate, is to figure out if it was imploded. The reason why is because a bunch of very wealthy people were on that, who have descendants who their entire lineage was affected by that ship going down. And so if it was found out that JP Morgan rigged it with explosives, JP Morgan
went out again.
If you guys don't
JP
remember,
Morgan's
Chase
got
Bank,
him.
Like,
okay, you're back. I was gonna say JP Morgan's assassinated Parr.
It's no, and the funny part is this was the news cycle current timeline where they were going to release all the information about, well, they did, but no one focused on it, that JP Morgan funded all the people to like Epstein's Island and like everything to cover up Epstein stuff. That was supposed to be this week's news cycle. And so people are like, this is the cover up. And I'm like, did it cover up? Because now we're talking about JP Morgan
maybe they
sinking
sunk the Titan
still.
too.
Like,
I like to imagine Mr. JP is down there like a wizard, Cthulhu in the ocean. It was him knocking. That's wild. What a story.
It's crazy. There's so much, like, I implore everybody to look at the other news that came out this week if you guys are sucked in the submarine stuff, because there were some big things like monetary. I think Russia and China. Oh, so this is a fun one, but I'm going to bring it back in a second. But Russia apparently got extremely exposed this week, in that like the Kremlin is their White House, right? A drone flew into the Kremlin and flew up to the flag and exploded, lighting the flag on fire. And so people were like, that would never happen to the White House. Like, you're telling me they have no air defense? Like, we would fly F-16s like immediately, but they didn't have anything. And they try to say that, oh, they shot it down, so the explosion was their fault. But there's like footage that that's not the case. And like, they're getting memed on throughout the wazoo. And I'm like, I don't know how the submarine thing exactly helps Russia.
They're gonna find their way to live one way or another,
Yeah. But going back to the whole exploration, I think it's fine. I'm sad that this happened. It's awful that we got a meme lord as so influential in that regard that was able to rizz up a few billionaires. Sad thing. There's a very big difference between Jeff Bezos making a rocket ship, which is what the billionaire flew in last year, versus Stockton Rush in this submarine. Very big difference between Amazon.
I knew it was game over when Elon Musk didn't propose a
like,
wacky idea to save them. Like the cave in Thailand. He was like, well, I'm going to build the squid suit and it's going to go underwater, around these rocks. It's going to save the kids. When Elon Musk doesn't bring up a wacky idea to save people, it's like, oh man, it might be too late, Like, oh God, what's up?
Oh, what's funny? The way that we lost the contact. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is verified, because I don't know if this ever got backtracked later. In the first few days, they said that the communication that the mothership and the submarine was using Starlink.
No, not Starlink.
So people are like,
not my man
so
Elon.
Why
Not my man Elon.
Elon?
Hey, he's not the CEO of Twitter anymore. He's a free man.
Is deep. I'm telling you. We talked about this last episode, which is eerie now. Billionaires, they all know each other. Like we talked about this. We talked about this off call. We were having our billionaire
because me and Par billionaires. We know all them too.
And
first name basis.
And we were talking about the other billionaires. And I was saying, like, they all know each other one way or the other. They're all connected. They have the same banks. Like, they talk, like, But here's the thing, right? These persons signed up for this mission. We saved them. I'm curious to see what comes out of it. There was another thing that apparently went viral just before this. And this girl made another thing that went viral just after, like, it was confirmed that they're dead. So I guess she got shot up the front. And we can end it on this one, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. This girl, apparently, and I haven't been able to completely fact check this, but people thought that she was going to Mars. But
people thought she was going to Mars.
There's this person that
I love
we
that
are.
Statement. What's up?
We are sending her on an indefinite mission, one-way trip into space, no destination. She's just going to deep space. 10-15 years expectation, alone. In 6 to 18 months she'll be deployed. She has she signed up, she went through a psych eval. We're sending her off. As I think this is a regulated thing. There's lots of checks in there. We apparently as a society are agreeing to send this girl up 10 so you're up for that, right? That's what's interesting, right? Like, this person is signing up for death to a certain extent, but she's going to be able to talk to us. She's going to give us updates. She's going to run tests, right? Like, and I'm just sitting there like, that is almost the equivalent in my mind, right? Like, of this situation where it's like, it's so crazy that I feel like when this news hits like mainstream, people are going to be like, what? Why are we doing it? Why are we just like sending people to die? Like, why are we wasting money like this?
Because it's like, you know, she's signing up, to like offer herself or like seclude herself from humanity for like 15, 18 years in space. But I feel like it is for the betterment of mankind. We have to do that eventually. Like, I feel like her going up there, signing waivers, going through a psyche valve, and knowing what she's doing, I think that's perfectly fine. It's for research. Like, we got to make strides somewhere. So her making that decision to do this, amazing. I actually commend her for it. Actually, that is great, because I wouldn't do that. So seeing somebody else take up the mantle, it's like, you know what? Hell yeah, man. Like, I hope everything goes well. I hope she comes back, and then, you know what? Even if she does or doesn't, we're gonna get a lot of information out of that trip, and it could pave the way for future explorations, which is dope.
Yeah, and
I'm all for it.
And again, I wasn't able to fact check it, but like she like, a lot of people were citing sources like, oh, you're that person, blah blah blah, in the comments. So but just the question of it is just interesting at this moment, because like, that's where I'm like we can't look at those two situations the same, but I feel like the world will. And at the minimum, they're gonna be like, why are we spending money like this, right? Like, we wasted money. Like, people don't even care for us to go into space. Like, why are we with so many problems down here? But people forget, like, a lot of our innovation in our world comes from the extension of our research. Like, so by broadening the horizons of humanity, we end up benefiting, like, us, right? Like, so GPS and radio, that's because we wanted to go into space and stuff like that. Like, aeronautical adventures were all spawned by that, and that's something everybody uses basically on the day-to-day. And there's probably gonna be equivalent to that down at the bottom of the ocean too. And like, you know, I'm you know, bottom of the ocean, underwater stuff is not lost on us. You guys know us. We knew that this was going to be a thematic for some reason in this year. And so, like, I think if you guys might be aware, there was some chops here. They'll
see the chops.
The JP Morgan's.
I'm actually going to leave that in the entire segment where we walk away for a second.
And so, like, as far as underwater things go, we're gonna talk a lot more. I have more underwater theories. The shark thing.
If you're watching this on Patreon, you'll realize that the timeline for these episodes is a little bit scuffed. But if you're on YouTube, you'll notice nothing.
Yeah, and we did that for the sake of, like, you know, we didn't want to be the guys talking about the submarine thing.
We had to move around, like, some episodes. We have to be topical. So, the 50-50 is trying to reach everybody, right? Yeah, you can't blame us for trying. Might look a little bit weird though.
Yeah. We're trying to
bring back that episode. I'm gonna repost
Mariana's
it.
Trench,
and also
we're.
Oh yeah, And also,
and
you guys
we're
might,
trying to reach
by
those
the time you
people,
get here, you might even notice a brand new icon. It's currently being commissioned. Will it be good? Who knows? But it is being made currently. And hopefully we have our new mascot. And I think they need a name. We can't just name him the 50-50 cat shark thing. So.
Yeah. Well, when it comes out, everyone will comment what they think.
Yeah,
a lot of people
it's
message me that
there.
they
It's
like
in a
the cat
cartoony
shark,
Tom and Jerry design.
that's
So will
really
it be good? Will it be bad? Who knows? But we'll have something. We do have new thumbnails now.
Who knows?
So they all look interesting.
Yeah. And so as far as like this topic, if you guys had any more, if more things come out, I'm sure we'll cover it. But just know that Sai and I are no strangers from the bottom of the ocean, even though we've never been there. But hey,
we wouldn't go
maybe
there.
We don't need to, because at the end of the day, one of my favorite parts of this, and we didn't bring this up, was like, it's so easy to scam billionaires.
Have more confidence.
Guys, have more
scam a billionaire. They will fall for
a billionaire.
They will.
250,000 is pocket change, sandwich money. They are willing to throw that out if you riz them up. Tell us your story of you guys rizzing them up, because at the end of the day, this guy, Stockton Rush, genius or not, he could take an IQ test and he could be Einstein level. Go for it. But at the end of the day, he was still too dumb to just scam them. He's telling them, I'm going to show you the Titanic through a screen. You know what I would do? No, maybe not I would do, because I have morality and integrity. But all you have to do is go a few 100 feet down, create some turbulence.
Have you ever watched
Oh no, we're getting to the bottom, we're getting close. Put up like a shade in front of the thing to make the darkness hit there. And then just show up the video that you got last time of the Titanic.
Have you
and
watched
then what
Ed
they
and
say? Nothing.
That was actually an
Absolutely
episode.
Nothing. Yeah, I watched that in Eddie.
So, no joke.
Wait,
in
really?
Ed and Eddie, they have a little makeshift submarine, and they put all the kids from the cul-de-sac in there, and then they start shaking it from the outside, and they put little pictures in the windows of like deep sea fish and monsters. No, literally, Stockton Rush should have just done that. Like, go the Ed and Eddie route. It would have worked. It literally would have worked. No, but they had a submarine, and they did exactly what you talked about.
No way. But
that's so funny to me.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, and like, so that, I think that's like a moral of the story, guys. To me, and I talked to a bunch of people yesterday. Billionaires, there are some. We could talk about these billionaires before. I know we talked about some in the past. Some people brought up some good, like genuine billionaires. There's a few of them we talked about yesterday that me and some friends talked about, some like really smart people. Like they got there through ingenuity. But at the end of the day, these billionaires are demonstrating that they are immortal. They are actually more mortal than you are. They are willing to shit in each other's faces. Behind a curtain, like be leg to leg with one another, like sniff each other's
They're just
farts,
like us.
like go on diets, make horrible decisions you or I would never make. Which honestly, like, hey, if you go out in the world and you think like, hey, I'm better than this person because I make better decisions than them in life. I make better. If you're that kind of like, you can apply that to billionaires now. You can say you would make better decisions than at least 2 billionaires right now.
The Titanic
100%.
isn't worth it. And with that being said, thank you guys for showing up to the 50-50 podcast, where you heard nothing but the submarine talk today. Apologies if you weren't a huge fan of the submarine, but God, it's topical. It is something we had to talk about. We had to dip the toes in there.
I think there's I think it like, if any podcast, like I think a lot of other podcasts are gonna stretch themselves trying to cover it, but this is thematic.
We've talked about how scary that ocean is.
Water, animals, tragedy, scary, fantasy, fiction, reality. We historically, gods, like we talked about everything. It's honestly, this is right. If there was any conspiracy, it would be that JP Morgan.
JP Morgan's was down there banging on the sub.
Oh no! Imagine
you remember
that
episode of SpongeBob with like Nosferatu turning on and off the lights. It's actually just the JP Morgans on the Titanic doing the banging noise. Yeah.
Oh my
I
god. Yeah, that is
man,
one mystery I wanna
before we even
see
knew
if
that what
people
happened to
crack.
the
I have a
submarine,
few
I
theories
told my
though.
wife, I was like, yo, like, what if that banging is something else entirely? And now that we know that the submarine was gone by Sunday, it's like, yo, that banging noise, hey, this could be like kaiju slumber ground. Like, who knows? Like something's going on there. I play too much Yu-Gi-Oh. This could be
Yeah,
the sub-terror monsters coming out to play.
there is a theory, but I'm not gonna say it now. I'll tell you off call, and maybe it comes up topical later on. It's related to sharks, and it's actually related to the submarine thing. I'm
Paul
not
will
making
find
this up,
any
guys.
excuse
But you know,
to
as
talk
far
about
as
sharks.
this
Man. Oh, guys,
No,
like
when
I
I
said,
tell you,
timeline of
you-
the video's a little bit scuffed, but when you see next week's video, if you're not on Patreon, let me tell you right now, you're in for 40 minutes of shark talk with Par. It is undisputed. I looked at the audio lines. Par talked for a solid 30 minutes straight, and I just said,
Yeah.
"Yep, cool." Like, but I was ingesting the information. But let me tell you, Par, when it comes to sharks, oh god, get this man a drink. Holy crap! I learned so much about
Yo,
sharks.
that's funny because last night I went to dinner with a few people.
Oh god.
And I didn't bring the conversation to sharks, but I gave them the same thing. We were all having K barbecue, and they were just like, it was like popcorn, and like it was super late at night, and they're like, they kept on asking me questions, so that's why I kept on going. So I was like, but they were like, wait, what? Oh my god, that's crazy. And I'm just like, they were like, I never knew this much about sharks. And one of the fun facts is that they're one of the oldest creatures, right? Like, and they were like,
Here he goes
like,
again.
They Googled it. They're like, no, Par's wrong. And I was like, but the thing,
Oh,
it's sharks are older than
with that being
trees.
said, hey,
And
thank
they're
you guys
like,
for showing up
no.
at
And I'm like,
50/50. I'll catch you guys next time.
because the
Bye,
planet
guys.
needs to be water. Bye, guys.